Are we good now, Rose?
We are good to go. Hold on a second while I press recording. Having a little bit of a issue with something. Escape out of there. There we go. We are good to go.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is Brendan Magnan, Chair of the Milford Inland Wetlands Agency. I'd like to call to order the June 18th, 2025 regular meeting of the agency. Lisa, could you please call the roll, making note that Commissioner Bahabe, Commissioner Munson, and Commissioner Field are excused.
And Commissioner Connors, through you, Mr. Chairman, as well.
And Mr. Matthew Connors as well.
Certainly. So Daniel Bedecker?
Here.
Brian Black?
Here.
Jim Connors? Jim? Jim?
He's waving.
Yeah, he's waving. Nick Ritchie?
Here.
Julie Valvo?
Here.
Ray Gradwell?
Here.
Brendan Magnan.
And I'm here. Thank you. Commissioner Gradwell, please serve as designated agent this evening.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair.
Through you, Mr. Chair, voting alternate?
Voting alternate. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That was a test. Thank you very much. Great. Thanks, Mary Rose. Mary Rose, could you introduce the statutory requirements?
We usually do the pledge.
We could do the pledge first. That's fine. Let's all stand and the Pledge of Allegiance. Could you please share the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag and
States of America.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under indivisible, liberty and justice.
Liberty and justice
For all.
Thank you, everybody. If everyone could go on mute, I'll just recap the statutory requirements quickly. As we continue to host remote meetings, this meeting will be recorded and is being broadcast on YouTube as we speak, in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and Governor Lamont's executive orders. It will be made available, the recording will be made available on the website for the City of Milford. And the jurisdiction under our purview is the Milford Inland Wetlands, so that being wetlands, brooks, rivers, flooding, and wetland habitat. Zoning issues are not under our purview. Is there any, moving on to item C, and Mary Rose, could you please put the agenda on the share, please?
Sure.
Is there anyone here from the public wishing to address the agency on topics not otherwise on the agenda? I am seeing the agenda. Thank you, Mary Rose. Is there anyone here wishing to address the agency on topics not otherwise on the agenda? Seeing none, let's move on to old business. Mary Rose, could you please give us an update on item 1?
Yes. Item 1, I'm sorry, D1 is IW 25006. It's 0 Cascade Boulevard. It's a violation that was issued on May 12th for work within 100 feet of a wetland and watercourse in the South Central Shoreline watershed without a permit at 0 Cascade Boulevard and the adjacent property owned by the Ryder Woods Residents Association. At our last meeting, the agency modified the requirements to have the owner remove the dumped material from the sites by 6/12. That was completed on 6/11. To ensure that proper DEP protocols for threatened and endangered species to be used while they were doing the work on the property. The removal work was done by Dave Moyer of ER Moyer. Also on site to do plantings today was Matt Pop of Environmental Land Solutions. Both of those individuals are familiar with turtle protocols and told me they did not find any turtles while they were working on the site. And the last requirement was to properly install erosion sedimentation controls. ER Moyer deployed core fiber logs and restaked the hay bales to stabilize the site. They also put down rye seed and straw until the appropriate seed mixture could be received. Mr. Pucci sent me a picture this afternoon or this morning of the seed mixture had been received that had been spec'd by Matt Pop from Environmental Land Solutions. I met Matt and Eric from Discount Fence on the site this morning. They were arranging the plantings to be installed. Mr. Pucci sent me photos this afternoon that showed the plantings installed on the site. So if you have any questions, I believe Mr. Pucci and Mr. Pop are here this evening to answer your questions. I can show you photos from this afternoon site or this morning site walk. These are the plants laid out to be planted. Mr. Pop was arranging them while I was on site. And there's a tree that's going to go in this area. This fallen tree is going to be taken down. Photos received from Mr. Pucci this afternoon showed the plantings in place with the straw on the sites. There also had been a complaint called in that TVs had jumped on the site. They were not there when I was there this afternoon, and Mr. Pucci had told me this morning that they were removed.
Thank you, Mary Rose. There's someone that's not on mute. I believe it's Mr. Wheeway. If you could please mute yourself. I'm seeing some background noise from your line. Thank you. Thank you for the synopsis. Mary Rose, in your expert opinion, are the activities that you've described consistent with the violation order that we've issued? And are you feeling like and thinking that everything is on track?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pucci has had the debris removed from the site. He's deployed the erosion controls as required. They've put the plantings in this afternoon. Mr. Pop did tell me while I was on site today that they're hoping to start the adjacent property work that they have a permit for soon. And while they're doing that, he would monitor these plantings. My only concern would be in the interim to ensure that these plants get water. And I know we've had a lot of rain recently, but if we get into a heavy dry period, these plants will need to be watered regularly to become established.
And how would you recommend we ensure that? Is there process by which we should entertain either holding the violation or modifying it in some way?
I would, if Mr. Pop would care to weigh in on his thoughts on, I know he's multi-meeting tonight, so I don't know if he's available.
Good evening, Matthew Pop. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
We can.
My video is not working right now, but I would say probably would want to, just to make sure that the slopes are stable, that they're vegetated before, maybe like if there's any, before removing any violation. That might be, maybe 3 to 4 weeks in time, maybe review it back in maybe your next meeting. I think that would probably be worthwhile.
Great, thanks for the suggestion. So this evening we can ask further questions, we can take no action, we can release the violation, we can modify the violation, or we could refer the violation to the city attorney's office. I believe the violation is being addressed in a way that is conforming to our expectations. So is there a prerogative for us to take no action or to modify the violation anyway? Open it up for questions.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering what Mr. Pop stated there about checking the 3 or 4 weeks. Is this something that we should document somewhere that has to be done prior to relieving the violation, or can we remove the violation with the knowing that that's going to be taken care of?
Matt Pop here. I think that with the development going on right next door, I think that would be pretty easy to, for me to be out there to monitor that. So maybe, that maybe you do remove the violation, but, under the bigger scope of the, the larger project, that this gets reviewed under that.
I would like Mayor Rose to weigh in on that question if I could. I have a view, but I'd like Mayor Rose to weigh in.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I would agree that we need to have the slope established and to ensure the plants are being watered. So I can check the site regularly while I'm out in the field over the next month or so, and then report back to the agency when Mr. Pucci and his consultants have checked the site and seen that it's fully stabilized and the watering is under control. They can ask for another inspection, and I can bring it to the board for a release. But I think we can hold it, not requiring reporting at every meeting, but hold it until the plantings are established, which would probably be mid-July, early August, as long as things are being watered.
Thank you, Mary Rose. Mr. Ritchie.
Based on Mary Rose's statement, should we make, through you, Commissioner, should we make a motion to hold it open till mid-July, and if everything's satisfactory, then release it at that? I think that's kind of what I don't have the,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's equivalent to taking no action. I don't think I would not be inclined to release the violation until such time that we're covered. So my recommendation would be that we take no action.
could I make the motion to take no action till, I think the next meeting's what, the 3rd or 2nd of July?
I don't think we need a motion for taking no
Okay.
action.
Okay.
We would only need a motion if we wanted to modify or release the violation. Is everybody comfortable with that approach? If so, let's move on.
Good approach.
Item D2.
Item D2, Mr. Chairman, is, let me just put the map up for you. Hold on one second. I lost my share. Hold on. Item D2 is IW 250029. It's 83 East Rutland Road. It's a proposal for a 20-unit 830G development with construction and stormwater improvements and grading within 150 feet of a wetland and watercourse in the Wepawag River watershed. There are no wetlands on the site. There are wetlands approximately about 50 feet or so off site to the rear on the Muse property, which was an earlier permit the agency did on Wheelers Farms Road. In my notes, I have the approximate distances from the proposed improvements to the offsite wetland. At our closest points, there is silt fencing 39 feet away, grading and a landscaping wall 41 feet away. The edge of parking is 49 feet away. Closest building is 55 feet, and the stormwater system is about 80 feet. The applicant has proposed silt fencing along the property line, and storm drainage is proposed for the center of the site. Snow storage is shown on sheet ES1. There's a note on that sheet that says snow in excess of the proposed storage location shall be removed off site. At the last meeting, the commissioners had questions about the amount of on-site snow storage. The city engineer has asked for an operational plan for the stockpiling removal of snow, and that the design engineer review the infiltration rates when excavating the site to ensure that the design will attenuate a 100-year storm event, given that there's some bedrock in the area. The threatened and endangered eastern box turtle was found on the parcel to the north, up in here, which is open space. The applicant has proposed the Connecticut DEP Turtle Protection Protocol for site development. My sidewalk notes and the photos from May 28th and the city engineer's review are in the meeting documents. This evening, Mr. Chairman, we have Ron Wassmer of Connecticut Civil Group, Matt Pop of Environmental Land Solutions, and I believe Attorney Chris Aden.
Thank you, Mary Rose. Attorney Kersaden, are you leading the presentation, or Mr. Rossmer? Who's
Good evening. I am not part of this application. I'm on the next one. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for clarifying. Mr. Wassmer, I believe you're representing this application.
Good evening. Yes, I am. For the record, Ronald Wasmer, professional engineer, land surveyor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I'm here representing the applicant, Forest Miles Property LLC. And again, Mary Rose mentioned that Matt Pop is part of our design team, is the wetland biologist. So I'll apologize. I forgot that you had a meeting 2 weeks ago and you discussed this and I was not available. But with that being said, we'll walk you through the project this evening and answer any questions that you have. So at this point, Mary Rose, I'd like to just touch base on the existing conditions survey, just to which is a few sheets ahead.
Ahead. Okay.
Yeah. After the illumination plan. There you go. So again, the property address is 83 East Rutland Road. There was a house on this. I'm not sure when it was demolished, but there's no longer a house on it. It's just approximately 1 acre of land. The topography is gently sloping, partly to the north towards the off-site wetlands and partly to the south towards East Rutland Road. The property is primarily surrounded by an existing chain link fence. I just wanted to point that out as we touch base on the natural diversity database a little bit later as well, and specifically regarding eastern box turtle. There is again, Mary Rose had mentioned the off-site wetlands, which you'll see there. There's residential properties to the east and to the west, and there's a access 25-foot or so access way to that parcel to the rear, which primarily serves as a utility. There's a sewer line in that. So now we can go back towards the site plan and I'll discuss the proposed plan. Maybe one more. I'll just briefly touch base on the site plan. So this application is for 830G affordable housing application. There are 20 two-bedroom townhouses. Access is from East Rutland Road. There's a circular drive. Majority of the parking is in the garage or in front of each unit. So there's 2 parking spaces for each unit. Additional visitor parking lot. There's an additional visitor parking lot adjacent to East Rutland Road. If you want to just point out that area, Mary Rose. Thank you. And there's also a additional parking to the rear. The typical parking requirements, and I'm going to use the word typical because I think there's some state laws that are changing, but as of right now, typical for a 2-bedroom is 2 parking spaces. This would require 40 parking spaces. We're providing 51. Part of that is that we need to provide electric vehicle charging stations. And then part of it is just to have some additional parking for visitors. I want to point that out because that additional parking above and beyond the requirement gives us the potential to stockpile snow. I believe snow stockpiling came up as a question during the last meeting when I wasn't here. We don't really get that many big snowstorms these days in Connecticut. I've been around for a long time. I could probably count on a little over 10 or so storms where we've had more than 12 inches, certainly in a long time. But that being said, we can stockpile. There's some small areas to stockpile snow on the property, as well as stockpiling it in visitor parking spaces, and it can be removed from site, which is most likely the case, or will be the case if we do get an extensive snowstorm. I guess that's it for the site plan. We can go forward to the grading and drainage plan. Again, I mentioned that the lot is relatively flat. At the street, it's about 160, contour 162. At the rear is about contour 166, so it's about a 4-foot rise. We are bringing some fill onto the site to assist in directing water towards our galley systems, to provide some separation between ledge and our galley systems, and to minimize excavation of ledge for the sewer line. So by bringing fill into the site, we're raising the rear of the property. So we have a landscape wall that runs along the northern boundary of the property, a few feet off of it. The maximum height of that landscaping wall is 5 feet. The storm drainage from the parking lots as well as the roofs is directed to catch basins and primarily to 2 galley systems. We have water quality chambers prior to the water going into the galley systems. So there's no municipal drainage in front of this property. There are some catch basins on East Rutland Road near the Milford connector, which is a few hundred feet to the west of the property. And then there is one catch basin about 200 feet to the east, and that there's an easement for that to the town, and it runs through private property. So with that being said, I didn't want to connect to either of those 2 systems. I don't know how well they function. We don't have a really large property. We are creating a fair amount of impervious, but the decision was made to attenuate the runoff on site. So we have 2 galley systems. The intention of this is to attenuate the 100-year storm so that there's really no runoff coming out of the parking lots towards the street. There's a small area of the driveway, the eastern and the western driveway, maybe the first 20 feet. You'll see the catch basins are set back about 20 feet. So that small area drains towards the road, and it'll follow the crest of the road. It's kind of opposite our driveways at Chevelle Drive. The gutter flow drains towards either the east towards that catch basin that we mentioned, or to the west towards the Milford connector, and also some catch basins. So we're retaining all of our stormwater on site with a small exception of those 2 driveways, and we've provided a hydrology study to show that there's no runoff coming out of those galley systems. So the only runoff that's leaving the site is the small area from the driveway, which is less than the runoff that leaves the site now. So we're reducing any runoff off of the property. There's a little bit of area towards the rear that we can't capture in catch basins. Yeah, thank you, Mary Rose. That area over there, and a little bit to the western side. And those 2 areas drain towards the wetlands. It's going to be a grass or a landscaped area. And the runoff from those 2 areas is, again, less than what the pre-construction is. So we're basically retaining all of our water on site. We were conservative in the infiltration rates that we used. I did see that Greg had a couple comments. I was told, this is not firsthand information, I was told that the municipal staff is busy with a couple larger projects, and he kind of rush through this. Again, that was not firsthand information. So it did make a comment that we're retaining the water in the galley systems, but then it's possible that somehow there's water leaving the site. I got that email from Greg today about 11 o'clock. I didn't have a chance to call him back to discuss what his concern was. I'm confident that we're providing storm drainage in accordance with the 100-year storm, and I can certainly clarify with him. And if there's a small change that he wants to see, we'll certainly do that. I would hope that you can make that a condition of approval, but certainly that's your board's decision to do. The site's being served, we can flip ahead to the utility plan. The site's being served by public water and sewer. So there's no septic systems involved with this project. I don't know that there's much more to talk about in regards to utilities. We can take a look at the erosion control plan. So we have the anti-tracking pads at both of the driveways. We have silt fence that's surrounding the property. We've proposed a temporary stockpile, which I believe is a convenient location to build the majority of the site. And then once the majority of the site is built out, that stockpile can be removed, or if it's topsoil, it can be spread, and then they can build that remaining unit. We do have some notes regarding the natural diversity database. Matt is more the expert on that, but I will point out that on this plan we have, I think the term is protocol regarding checking on the box turtles. I do want to mention again that this property is surrounded by a chain link fence. It was a residential property. It's kind of an overgrown field at this point with like 5 to 7 year old saplings. There's a little bit of wooded area towards the back right. I believe that the chain link fence kind of deters the turtles from coming onto the property. But again, I will defer to Matt's comments on that. But we do have protocol regarding inspection of the property prior to construction and throughout construction. I think in general, that's the gist of it. There's an illumination plan that I don't know that this commission is all that concerned about. And we have some site details that typical civil details that for catch basins and water quality chambers and pavement type. And we have some cross sections of the galley system. Again, these were all reviewed by your city engineer. And I guess at this point, I'll turn it over to Matt to discuss whatever he wants regarding the diversity database or other wetland features of this property. And then I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Matt Pop, Landscape Architect, Environmental Land Solutions. I did visit actually the site today. Just highlight some of the points that Ron made. One is the fence near the northern property line, the chain link fence. It does go down to the ground. In the areas that I saw, there were no gaps underneath that fence. There is an area where a tree fell on that fence and I think it broke it. Probably be tough for a turtle to get over that area from the north onto our site. But with that said, there is a lot of herbaceous vegetation on our property. So it would be tough to, well, we have to look carefully for the turtles. Again, it's not an easy site to see the ground when you're walking. But again, that fence does provide, a barrier. Another item was that all of the drainage goes under into the ground, which I like quite a bit. Only a small area of the landscape area in the very northwestern and northeastern corners of the property drain towards the wetland area. There's a little bit of trash along the maybe the northern property line. It may be just off the site, a lot of bottles, So if there's any of that stuff on our site, we definitely want that to be removed. And then the wetland area, it's a wooded wetland. There was a little bit of ponding, maybe 4 to 5 inches of water today, which you kind of would expect after heavy rains. Right on the western side of the wetland, I think there was there's a sewer main. It almost looks like a old roadbed that crosses that wetland, goes north to south, and I think that's the land to the west of our site. With that said, I think that's the highlight. Again, mainly the fence provides an existing barrier, and actually the wall that we're proposing will provide a little bit of a barrier too for the turtles. So if there's any questions, I think I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Pop. Thank you, Mr. Wassmer. Mayor Rose, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, no. We've gotten the reports from Mr. Pop. They did the natural diversity database, which of course returned the turtles. They've proposed the turtle plan in the original filing of the map, and Mr. Pop has given his report and his site walk information.
Great, thanks, Mayor Rose. Questions for the applicant from the agency at this time? Mr. Ritchie, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the back of the property, the northern half of the property, that is a wall, correct? I think Mr. Watson or Mr. Pop said there's gonna be grass there, or how are they gonna take care of that property in the back of that wall? They be able to get a lawnmower down there, or is it gonna be like, would plantings be more sufficient to filtrate any water that goes down there, or do you have any other ideas, Mr. Pop, concerning that, or what should be the easiest and most effective to filter any of that remaining water coming off of the parking lot or the buildings?
Matt Pop, that area is probably not going to receive any runoff from the site, but it's only a very narrow strip. It's probably maybe 3 to 4 feet in width. I would say that we wouldn't. I don't see why it would be lawn area back there. It doesn't seem to make sense. So I would just say that area probably would be good just to seed it with the native meadow mix, and then just let it go. Maybe it gets cut once a year in the late winter, but I don't see a need to have that in maintained areas. Again, it's a very narrow strip beyond that wall.
Okay, I thought you said grass. I didn't think you said meadow mix or anything like that when you said your plan. So, okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Mayor Rose, would you mind just showing us where that subject matter is that's being discussed?
Yes, talking to right now the grading drainage utility plan. This is this linear line here along the back is the wall.
We're not seeing anything. It's not being shared.
Sorry about that. Thought it shared that. There you go. How's that?
Just came up.
All right. So this is the grading drainage utility plan. I don't believe there's a planting plan in this set. This is the proposed retaining wall or landscaping wall, with this being grass area and this being grass area. Mr. Pop's proposing a native seed mixture behind this wall. As you can see, it's very narrow, to be mowed perhaps once a year. This area is proposed as grass for the residents to use in general.
And Mayor Rose, do you know if that planting seed mix that Mr. Pop described and suggested is part of the plan, or does that need to be amended to include that?
That would need to be either conditioned or amended.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Mr. Gradwell.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple questions maybe for the applicant. Maybe he can help me out, or maybe Mr. Pop or Mr. Wasmer can help me out. Looks like we're covering the site pretty significantly with building pavements and hardscapes. And I see the upland review area, the review area kind of will be infilled with a lot of impervious areas as well. Has there been any thought to the impacts of the wetland due to the upland review area being impacted so heavily with impervious area, buildings, other hardscapes like transformers and other elements? Any thoughts to that? Off-site wetland being impacted by all these improvements on this site?
So
And
again, Ronald Wasmer, and the intention of this plan is to take the stormwater runoff from that impervious areas that you're referring to and reintroduce that into the groundwater in a form similar to what if the rain fell on the site today, it would infiltrate into the ground and travel some to the south towards East Rutland Road and some to the north towards the property to the north where the wetlands are. So we have a large galley system that's, I think Mary Rose said, about 80 feet away from the wetlands. And that, so the storm drainage of that portion of the property is directed first to a water catch basin and then to a water quality chamber, and then introduced to the groundwater, and then travel in the ground the way that the natural rainfall would travel through the ground towards that wetlands, because that's the way that the contours flow. So the water would flow towards that wetlands. We're putting the water back into the ground, so again it will flow towards the wetlands. So we're not introducing a large inflow that would cause sedimentation or erosion towards those wetlands, nor are we taking the water away from that wetlands. So we're by reintroducing it through the galley system.
through you, Mr. Chair, is there, Mr. Wasmer, has been any, going back to the same question, same topic on the amount of area in the review area kind of disturbed by this development? Any, there's like I said, there's a large percentage of this area being disturbed. Has there been any calculations on like how much area of the upland review area have been impacted by this development?
I believe in the application it talks about areas within the 100-foot review area. I don't have that number at the top of my hands.
And then through you, Mr. Chair, is there lighting proposed back there too that would be potentially in that review area as well?
We do have an illumination plan. I did skip that one over, but we can look at it now. So we have a pole light that's towards the north end of the middle building. So you'll see that kind of a oblong circle. That's kind of the extent of the illumination. The City of Milford Planning and Zoning has illumination requirements, regulations, that we don't have any light trespassing off of the property. So we're not putting an extensive amount of light into the wetland area. That light Mary Rose pointed to is the closest light to the off-site wetlands.
Thank you, Mr. Wasmer.
Thank you, Mr. Gradwell. On your first series of questions, did you feel like you got the sufficient answer you needed, Mr. Gradwell, or did you need Mr. Wasmer to take a follow-up action?
I guess there's maybe a little follow-up on that, Mr. Chair. Like I said, there's the area surrounding that wetland offsite is being impacted by this 1 acre development pretty significantly. And in my opinion, I'm not a wetland expert or a hydrogeologist or those type of engineering folks or professionals, but just looking at the drainage area or the area that's flowing off site towards that wetland to the north off site, this corner of the property, the north area of the property, will be impacting that upland review area pretty significantly. So maybe, you know, is there any, you know, like going back to the, you know, what was the thoughts are is to infiltrate the water back into the groundwater via those galley systems in the parking lot. But you know, historically, it flowed overland to that wetland offsite as well. I don't know. Maybe Mr. Pop can answer that question. If does that introduction of water, stormwater into the ground, is that going to adequately kind of recharge that wetland offsite and not have any adverse effects to it?
Matthew Pop, again, as kind of just highlighting what Ron said, you know, there's no real surface flow towards that wetland. It's just the two corners of the property in the northeastern, northwestern landscape areas flow there. Again, the remaining, the hardscape, the pavement areas all get collected and infiltrated into the ground. I was pretty happy when I saw the plan that, you know, again, there was no runoff discharge that way. Typically on a project like this, you have the infiltrators under the driveway, and then there's a discharge point like in the rear wall heading towards the wetland. So, but this project, that doesn't have that. So the primary impact to that wetland would be, you know, mainly would be from water quality. And I think that this project addresses that water quality issue. The only other thing, I'm just looking at the project now, is, you know, maybe the wall along the northern property line, maybe it could be extended, you know, 10 feet or 15 feet towards the northeast to connect to the existing retaining wall. There's a boulder wall. It's a loose boulder wall, and that provides a little bit more of a barrier, you know, for the turtles. So that wall would just extend, you know, eastward probably 15 feet and connect to that boulder row.
Thank you, Mr. Pop, for that suggestion. I think that's a great suggestion on the surface. I mean, we're relying on your expertise, but it sounds interesting to us, or to me at least. Mr. Gradwell, does that better answer your question?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that better answers that question, and I'm encouraged to hear that they thought about that wetland offsite.
And Mr. Pop, would you characterize that modification to the plan as something that warrants further investigation, or do you feel pretty confident with that recommendation to extend?
Oh, yeah, I think, yeah, it almost has to be just a loose boulders, you know, probably a foot in height or so, just to connect to the existing retaining wall.
Right.
I think that's, you know, something that can almost be done in the field. We just want to connect, have that proposed wall act as a wildlife barrier to connect to the existing boulder wall.
Good.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the agency? Good discussion. Okay, hearing no other discussion, we have received this and we've asked some questions. Mr. Wassenaar, as it relates to the engineering. Sorry, Mr. Cooper or Cooper?
I'm muted.
Thank you. Just as a point of reference in regards to the engineering recommendations and feedback, we won't entertain approving this until that's done. So
Okay.
that
fine.
finish, and just encourage you to keep working with the city officials as you normally do. If there's no other discussion on this, if there's no other actions, I guess the question would be to the agency, do we feel like there's a site walk that's warranted for this? Or a public hearing, which would be typically by practice would be warranted if there's a petition or if we feel like there's a public interest. And as of June 4th, Mary Rose, is that right?
No, I'm sorry, that's this, it should read this evening, as of June 18th.
We
We
have
have not
no,
received
no,
that petition.
okay. So at this time, what is the prerogative of the agency? Do you want to receive any more information? Do you want to have a site walk? Do you want to wait until the next meeting? I wouldn't recommend waiting till the next meeting to decide on a site walk. We should decide that now. So let's take that decision first. Is there any consideration for that? Mr. Ritchie?
Sorry. Through you, Mr. Chair, Mary Rose, you think a site walk would be feasible on that property? Is it too overgrown? Are we gonna learn anything or what?
I can show you my photos from this, oops, from the
I
site
would love
walk.
to share.
It is overgrown. It's walkable. Matt walked it this afternoon.
We
hold on.
did lose the share again, Narrows. I'm not sure.
I know we left it. I stopped it while I was scrolling, so you didn't get dizzy. There you go. So this is my site walk on the, I think it was the 28th of May. This is approaching the site from Chevelle Place. This is the old driveway. There's a house here that had burnt down and was eventually taken down. So this is the area as Matt described it. There's some rubble here, but basically the property is just overgrowing and becoming recolonized. There's another pile of debris here. This is the house at 72 East Rutland Road. You have some small trees, a lot of crops of invasive species. This picture is moving to the back of the site. We've talked about the fence. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit for you. We talked about the fence in the rear and how some trees had recently fallen over on it. Here's this fence. Here's the trees that have fallen on it. This is the back half of the site. There's a mound over here. If you can see my mouse as well. We walked through here and climbed through the fence to access the open space portion of the Muse property. Just looking at the property angles off towards the northeast, I think it is. And so this is just the rear of the property. This is the area that the wall would be in, approximately. It's looking over the fence towards the wetland. The wetland's off in this area where the mouse is. This is the wetland as it was on May 28th. We had been dry. So it wasn't very large, wasn't very wet. Again, this is the offsite area of the wetlands. You can note these boulders. I take a further away picture. You can see those boulders again. We're looking from the wetland towards the site. This is a fence crossing the property. This is the property corner here by these two trees. To the right of the photo is the sewer easement and utility easement. Coming at the opposite direction, those are those two trees. This is the corner of the property with the fence. We're standing in the sewer easement, looking back over towards the wetland. And now we're back on the rear of the site. Here's the fence for orientation. We're looking, I'm sorry, this is I believe it's the northeastern corner of the site that's not in the fence. This is from the rear of the open space, approximate property corner, looking back towards the site. This area in front of us is the area I think Mr. Pop was talking about. I think the stone walls behind me, where would request an addition of rubble stone to add to the landscaping wall for a wildlife barrier. And that is the end of my sidewalk photos. So to answer your question, Mr. Ricky, the site is walkable. it's dense. We need tick protection, but we can certainly walk the site if you feel it necessary.
I personally, I think I'm okay with it. I don't know what other members of the committee want to do. Obviously, I'll go either way with this. Do you think, Mary Rose, do you think we should put markings to delineate the wetland site? Just for maybe kids going in there or something like that once they are occupied? If you get people walking through there or something? Is that in the plan anywhere, or at least on the property line to mark it? With a couple of
So like a,
signs?
wetland informational signage.
Yes.
We have some sample signs that we've used in the past. I think Mr. Wasmer has used it on a site. I can forward that to Mr. Wasmer. He can, and the applicant, and they can see if they want to use that or something similar. Would the agency also want to see a no snow storage, no snow storage, no store, snow push sign towards the rear of the site by this parking area to make sure that we don't get snow that's stockpiled here and then pushed over the landscaping wall towards the open space on the adjacent property.
Mary Rose, can I just chime in for a second? I have no objection to the sign, but I just want to point out that there is a screening fence in front of the landscaping wall for both.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
It shows up on the site plan, not on this plan. So there's proposed fencing around the entire property other than obviously the driveway. So again, there's no objection to putting any signage there, but I just want to point out that there is a fence that would also deter people from dumping snow over the landscape wall. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wasmer. Mr. Connors, do you have any input on this? Oh, Mr. Connor, you're on mute. Jim Connors, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's pretty straightforward, and with the fence, you're not going to be pushing snow over the top of a fence. And even the little bit of water that's going to drain off that corner towards the wetland is going to be actually good for the wetland, not advantageous in my opinion. So, and as far as the sidewalk, it's basically a flat piece of property with overgrown saplings on it at this point. I happen to drive by going somewhere else, and it's
Right.
when you clear, you got a flat piece of property basically.
Yeah, my perspective is similar. I don't think there's anything we would learn through a sidewalk that we don't already know. And the wetlands are off the property, so I think as long as we're attending to the upland review concerns that we've addressed, I would recommend that we take no action and that we hear this matter at the next meeting relative to the updates on the engineering feedback and the perhaps Mr. Wasmer, you can address the suggestions that were made this evening and talked about and address that in subsequent revision or plan revision so we could review it again at the next meeting.
Good.
Very good. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So we're going to take no action on that one. We're going to move on to E1, I believe.
Get that up for you. Buick. Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is item E1 IW 250036. It's 34 Buick Avenue. As long as are we still sharing? We are not.
We can see it now.
Thank you. This is a proposal by 34 Buick LLC for a 55-unit building under Connecticut General Statute 830G with construction, grading, and stormwater within 100 feet of a wetland and watercourse in the Indian River watershed. There are 0.02 acres or 871 square feet of wetlands on the southern portion of the property along Stubby Plain Brook. The closest point to the wetlands on the property is about 82 feet to the driveway entrance proposed on the site. Just over here. Off-site improvements on Buick Avenue near Cherry Street would be within about 4 feet of the wetlands. This evening we have attorney Kevin Kersaden, Bob Weiwei, engineer with Codispodi and Associates, and I believe we have a representative from Soil Science and Environmental Services as well.
Great. Thank you, Mary Rose. Anything else to introduce us before I hand over to the applicants?
I do not believe so. They did receive their NDDB letter of preliminary determination of no threatened and endangered species. The city engineer has received the plans. He is waiting on the hydrology report for review. And I did, as well as the city engineer, witness the test pits that were done about a year ago on the property at Mr. Weiwei's request.
Okay, thank you, Mary Rose, for the introduction. Mr. Kersaden?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the agency, and Mary Rose and staff. My name is Kevin Kersaden. I'm representing the applicant through this permitting and approval process. Dan Thornburg, the owner, is also here this evening. And as Mary Rose stated, Bob Weiwei, and I believe Scott Stevens, the soil scientist, may be on the call. I didn't see the name stick out in the list of participants right now, but I believe he might be here as well to answer any questions. Just briefly, as Mary Rose had already stated, it's a single building. This is an 8-30G application. And I will turn it over to Bob Weiwei for just a brief summary of what we're proposing. And I'll be available to answer any questions if they come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kersaden. Mr. Weiwei.
Okay, Mary Rose, would I be allowed to share screen?
Sure, just give me 1 second. Okay, you're all set, Bob.
Okay, good evening. My name is Robert Weiwei. I'm a professional engineer and principal with the firm of Codispodi and Associates, and we're here tonight on the behalf of the applicant, 34 Buick Avenue, LLC. Is the share going, Mary Rose?
We had it for a second and then we lost it. And try that again. Nope. No.
Is that better?
No, try one more time. There you go.
Okay.
Maybe try to make that a little bit bigger.
Yeah, so the property is located at 34 Buick Avenue. We have frontage along Buick Avenue, which goes out to Cherry Street. The Spinnaker apartment complex is located just to the east of the site, and then we've got single-family residential, which borders the site to the north and west.
Mr. Weiwei, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you just make the map a little bigger so we can sort of maybe appreciate the, there you go.
Okay. So basically right now the property contains an existing single-family home here, and then there's two barns, one located down adjacent to Buick Avenue and the other one located a little bit further up north in the property. The two barns are proposed to be removed as part of the development of the property. The existing house is proposed to remain, and as you'll see on the proposed site plan, we are asking permission to add a separate driveway to service the house in that particular location. The property, for the most part, is largely lawn area, and you can see we have the lawn designation through here. And along the perimeter, there's a lightly wooded buffer that pretty much straddles the western portion of the property as well as the northern portion. And those areas are mostly lightly wooded. Stubby Plain Brook basically bisects the southern portion of the site through here. And Stubby Plain goes underneath Buick Avenue. There's two culverts that are underneath Buick and two head walls on the upstream and downstream part of the property. The wetlands that's been delineated on here was flagged by Scott Stevens in June of 2023, and are, for the most part, the wetlands are contained to the banks of Stubby Plain Brook. Now, there is some additional off-site wetlands that was flagged by Otto Thiel back in February of 1995, and his delineation is represented on here. And we included that because of the work that we're proposing to do in conjunction with the Buick Avenue right-of-way improvements for that particular area. We have a little bit bigger plan here with some color renderings on it. And this basically will give you a little bit better overview of the project in general. We have approximately 0.12 acres of upland review area that will be altered for grading, primarily for the driveway entrance to the project, as well as the construction of the proposed driveway for the existing home, and some grading off in this general area here to facilitate storm drainage, sanitary sewer, and utility installation. And we have a little bit of grading that's taking place up in this area here for flood storage reclamation going through that particular area there. So what you can see on here, we have the 100-foot upland review area delineated here. So what you can see is that the vast majority of our development is well outside of that 100-foot review area. The proposed building will be a single building located up in the northeast portion of the site. It's going to contain 53 residential units, and it's a five-story building. We have a total of 92 parking spaces that are being proposed. And again, what you'll notice is that with the exception of the couple of parking spaces down in this area, the vast majority of the other parking is located outside of your review area. We're also going to be providing a storm drainage easement, which is delineated here. And that will basically, that storm drainage easement will be dedicated to the city of Milford, and will allow for a connection to our proposed drainage system. Right now, that basically there's a storm pipe back up in this area that's kind of buried, and the water just tends to pond in that area, and eventually it overflows and discharges onto our site. So due to the proposed building and the parking, we are going to be installing storm drainage here at the applicant's expense. It'll be for the benefit of the city, but the applicant will be installing that as part of the proposed project. There's also going to be a sanitary sewer easement. So from this point back to Buick Avenue, this will be a combined storm and sanitary easement. So the purpose of the sanitary easement up in this general location is basically to be able to provide sanitary sewer service to these two properties, which presently right now they have no ability to connect to the sanitary sewer system. That's fronting along their properties. And as you can see from the proposed site plan, there is going to be a substantial amount of impervious area that's going to be added to the site. Basically, the difference between the impervious coverage that's out there today and what's being proposed on the plan will be approximately 45,600 square feet of impervious surface that's added to what's already out there. So our design for this project is one of a permeable paver retention system, and has been designed to store and infiltrate the runoff generated by a 1.3-inch water quality runoff event, and for all storms up to the 25-year storm. So basically there's no discharge out of that system for those events, and there's full retention and then infiltration back into the underlying soils that are through that area. With the depth of the reservoir bed that's being provided, that will also provide additional storage to function as retention and detention for storms that are greater than the 25-year event. Now, in order to maintain the efficiency of the storage bed, the parking area has been broken up into 5 cells, and those have been identified on the grading plan, which I believe is sheet SP2. So we have paver cell 1 here, paver cell 2 here, paver cell 3, paver cell 4, and paver cell 5. And the main reason why it was broken up into 5 systems is because there is a change in grade from this low point down in this section to the high point, which is up in this area here. So typically when we set up the reservoir beds on these types of systems, we like to install them level so that the bottom is flat, so it could basically impound the runoff that's being discharged into it, and it provides a better surface for dispersion of the stormwater into the underlying soils. So basically what we're doing here in providing the five cells, we're providing steps along the way, and those are delineated on the plans here. And what that lets us do is basically step it up as we move up the slopes. And that helps keep the size of the reservoir bed to a much more manageable depth, as opposed to if we started level here and maintain level all the way back up here. So it ends up being, it's not an overly complicated system. It does add a little bit more to the construction, but it is manageable. So basically, the pavement will only be receiving water that falls onto the pavement and being allowed to infiltrate through the permeable pavers. The rooftop has been basically split up into 3, for lack of a better term, discharge surfaces. So we'll be taking the runoff from the different portions of the roof and discharging them into the paver cells. So what we did is we basically proportioned up the roof areas. So this section of the roof building will be going to paver cell number 5. This section will be going to paver cell number 4, and this section will be going to paver cell 3. And we've identified on the grading plan what the tributary area will be to each of those cells. So the square footages are all identified on the plans at that location. So what you can see here is that we have the yard drain, which will be at the end of the year. There's an existing right-of-way / easement which comes down for that for the benefit of the city of Milford to pick up the Sunnyside Court drainage. So we're providing a yard drain here to basically intercept that overland flow, and then we're basically taking that and running that down around the perimeter of our site So none of this stormwater will be intermixing with our proposed stormwater management system. So this will all be conveyed around the site, out to Buick Avenue, and then we'll be making a connection to the existing head wall that's on the east side of Buick Avenue and Stubby Plain Brook. And on the erosion control plan, which is sheet SP3, it's not an overly complicated system. So what we provide is your typical S&E measures. You've got silt fencing, which is pretty much ringing the perimeter and the downslope areas. We're providing for hay bales. We got check dams in the swale areas. We're providing for a mud tracking pad and some silt sacks on the existing catch basins that are out in the road. So that's pretty much a quick overview of what the project consists of. And I think at this point, if I'll kind of wrap it up and leave it at that. And if the commission has any questions, we'll certainly try to answer or address them.
Thank you, Mr. Wee. So this evening, we're receiving the application for the first time. So as a reminder for the agency, we can ask questions. We can suggest a site walk. We can suggest public hearing. Yeah, those are the basic options. So what is the purview of the agency at this time?
I apologize for the interruption. I'm a resident on Sunnyside Court. Is it possible that is it now appropriate for me to make a comment or two or share my observations?
No, it's a regular meeting of the agency. So we would, if there's public interest, we will entertain that in a public hearing. But as this matter is undergoing our initial review, it's not really open for a public two-way conversation.
Okay, thank you for that, and I'll be sure to attend. Thank you.
Thank you for your question and your interest. Mr. Ritchie.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, due to the public interest, I guess, for the people online, do you think a public hearing would be advisable in this situation?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think it's obvious that there's interest, and I think there's enough. Mary Rose, would you say, what are the other, remind me, I'm sorry, the considerations for a public hearing? It's in the interest of the public and...
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the agency has three prongs that can create a public hearing. We can hold a public hearing because we feel it's in the public interest. We have to hold a public hearing if we receive 25 signatures of people that are 18 or older and in the municipality, or if we feel that it's a significant impact activity that's going to significantly impact a wetland, we can hold a public hearing.
Thank you for the reminder. Right. So I would agree, Mr. Ritchie, with your sentiment that there's adequate public interest in this application. So I would entertain a motion for a public hearing.
I guess I'll make the motion for a public hearing.
You guys?
I can second that.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I can interrupt.
Yes, please.
Would that be a public hearing due to public interest?
I think that's an important distinction that we're trying to understand here. Mr. Ritchie, what is your rationale?
Yes, I make the motion for a public hearing because of public interest.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. We have a motion on the table from Mr. Ritchie. We have a second from Ms. Valvo. Any further discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, where would you like that public hearing to be on July 16th?
Great question, Mary Rose. At the next meeting? I believe it is.
No, it is not. The applicant would need 15 days to notice the immediate adjoiners of the property, not the folks within 200 feet, just the immediate adjoiners of the public hearing. And it won't be sufficient time to do that as we meet every 14 days. So it couldn't be the next meeting, it would be the meeting after that.
Thank you for clarifying again. So I would entertain an amendment to the main motion if somebody would like to make that amendment.
So what is that date, please?
July 16th.
Thank you.
Anyone?
Yeah, I'll make that amendment to the July 16th to hold the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Black. So there's an amendment to the main motion. Any further discussion on the amendment? If none,
No.
roll call vote on the amendment, please.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors, Nick Ritchie,
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Ray Gradwell,
Aye.
Brenda Magnan.
Aye. Okay, so we have an amended motion. Do we have a vote? Sorry, any further discussion on the amended motion? Okay, roll call vote on the motion.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Nick Ritchie,
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Ray Gradwell,
Aye.
Brenda Magnan.
Aye. Okay, the motion to have a public hearing in the interest of public, sorry, due to public interest on July 16th has passed. Moving to the considerations for the application, are there any major areas of question that the agency may want to have the applicant
I have a question, sir.
further? Yes, Mr. Connors, go for it.
Where is he going to put the snow?
Ms. Weiwei, can you address the question?
Yes, the snow stockpile areas are shown on our landscape plan.
Okay, one
If
second.
you could either, if you want to share, if you want to have me share.
Yeah, sorry, I had to take that away so we could vote.
Yep.
Try that.
Okay, so this is on the landscape plan, and we've identified a snow shelf area up in this general vicinity, along here, as well as over in this general location here.
I didn't see where you were pointing. I'm sorry.
All right, so we have basically along the entire
Parking
western
area?
perimeter, along the western perimeter of the parking area, to the south of the parking area here, to the east of the parking area here, as well as a little bit over in this area here, and then coming up through the driveway shoulder.
Okay. Is he going to push into the trees or is that lawn area there?
Well, this is all pretty much vegetated area. We do have a handful of trees here. These are mostly low-growing shrubs in this section
You going
here.
to push the
These trees
snow over the top of those shrubs?
Yeah, well, no, well, the shrubs are back up in here. So again, are you saying is it 3 feet, 4 feet, or 10 feet? Yeah, again, that's going to vary upon the depth of the snow. Again, as we've gone through on other projects in the past, if the snow is so great, then it's going to, they would have to bring in trucks to get rid of the snow and remove it off site, and that would be on a snow event basis. But I think we have adequate perimeter in here to deal with the typical snowfall events that occur in the area. And then the snow shelf areas that we have coming up and through here and here, these are for the most part outside of your 100-foot upland review area.
We're taking your guidance on that. We'll think about whether we have a comment on that or not, Mr.
Okay.
Weiwei. Mr. Ritchie? Mr. Ritchie, you're on mute.
Sorry, I lost my screen there for a second. I know it's not on the property itself, but is the developer going to make any improvements to the roadway on Buick Avenue to facilitate traffic?
Mr.
Yes,
Ritchie,
yes, we
I'm
are.
sorry.
So let me,
Excuse me, Mr. Weiwei, excuse me. Mr. Ritchie, could you clarify your question in relation to the wetlands, please? We're not here to engineer roads.
Oh, sorry. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it's in our purview. If it isn't, I apologize. I know the property itself is not in the upland wetland review area except for a small piece of it. Is the developer going to make any impacts in the roadway due to the project that will affect the watershed on Stubby Plain Brook?
Thank you. That's a better question. Mr. Weiwei?
okay, so we will be doing improvements to Buick Avenue. We'll be doing regrading work as well as widening of the pavement, and the widening of the pavement was basically at the request or requirement of the fire department to provide sufficient emergency access to the property. So we did provide a plan and profile drawing, which is included in your set, and that's basically what I'm highlighting here. And you could see what we're showing, the difference between the existing pavement, which is represented by the dashed line through here, and then this line, which is kind of a little bit darker and hatched, it represents what will be the new edge of pavement and gravel or stone trench system that's been designed as part of the work being done in Buick Avenue. So with respect to what you have for your 100-foot upland review area, the entire portion of the Buick Avenue reconstruction will be within that review area.
Thank you for the question and for the response. Ms. Valvo, did you have a question or did you lower your hand?
I lowered my hand because I felt like we moved on. My question was relative to the snow piles. And my question just, it looked to me like a lot of the places where you were pointing where the snow was going to go, I'm picturing cars being parked there. How many of those parking spaces are for guests versus residents? That whole top area and that picture that you showed, I believe those are all parking spaces, are they not?
Yes, they are. And again, I mean, this is really no different than a lot of your condominium and apartment type developments. They'll set up restrictions on parking. They'll have during certain periods of either during the snowfall event or after it, where the cars have to be moved so that the snow plows can get in there and clear the spaces. I mean, it's quite typical on a lot of apartment and condominium projects, and this would really be no different.
If I could just comment, it sounds, I think what you're hearing from the agency is there isn't really a designated snow shelf.
No, the snow shelf is designated. So it's right here. It's called out as a snow shelf here, which would be to the west of the parking. There's a snow shelf to the east of the proposed parking here. There's a snow shelf identified here. So the snow shelves are called out on the landscape plan.
Mr. Gradwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's a couple, I don't think we've seen a hydrologic study or hydraulic study yet. Just a couple thoughts for the engineer. How are you envisioning treating water before it leaves the site with respect to like oils and greases and a porous pavement area? And then have you accounted for groundwater recharge as well in your porous pavement system? and below that system. A couple technical questions, but they'll probably be answered in a study that we're waiting on submitting at this point.
Yeah, our detailed report will be submitted in the next day or so. We're just finishing up a couple of loose ends on it. But with respect to this type of a system, the runoff that hits the pavement flows basically between the pavers through an infill material, and from that, the pollutants get tied up in that infill material as well as the bedding material that's underneath it. So there is a detail on the plans on the detail sheet, which basically right here will give you a little bit of an idea of the cross section of how the system works. So you have the pavers, and the pavers are approximately 3 inches thick, and between the joints, they're filled in with an infill material. And the permeable pavers are, the gaps between them are a little bit wider than what you would have with a normal non-permeable paver type system. So again, the void space that's in here allows the surface runoff that's hitting this area to flow through the infill material, and then it hits the base layer, which is here, and for this particular design, that's 2 inches thick. That 2-inch layer is of a type of material. It's an 8-inch, a number 8 stone, which is very finely graded, and that would tie up any of the hydrocarbons that may get down into the system and tie them up and through there. Below that, there's a 4-inch thick layer of ASTM number 57 stone, which provides for some of the structural integrity of the paver system. And below that, we start getting into the sub-base layer, or what I commonly refer to as the reservoir system. And for this particular design, this is an 8-inch thick layer of very coarse stone, or in this particular case, it's identified as an ASTM number 2 stone. So it's a much larger stone with a larger void space between the system.
Thank you, Mr. Wheelwright. Mr. Gradwell, did you have any other questions?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think my follow-up question to that conversation, Mr. Wheelwright, is in the same vein that Mr. Gradwell was asking about relative to the 100-foot buffer area. We really want to get comfortable with the impacts to the wetlands, so I think we would really value a deep dive on that during the public hearing. If you could plan to focus your attention to that, that would be very helpful and of keen interest to us.
Yes, and I believe Jen Benno, and we did make it part of the application material, there was an analysis done by Jen Benno from Soil Resources, and that should be part of the record. And they basically reviewed the plans and provided their insight to the project. And I'm not sure if Mr. Scott Stevens is on the call or not. Again, I didn't see his name on there, but he was a soil scientist that flagged and delineated the wetlands for the project.
Thank you, Mr. Wheelwright. Mr. Crusaden, I think that would be my suggestion, is that you make sure Ms. Benno and Mr. Stevens are made available for the conversation during the public hearing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any other compelling thoughts from the agency that we want to share so that we can have a productive conversation on the 16th? Is there anything else, Mary Rose, that you think we need to cover that we haven't?
The agency is not entertained if they want to do a site walk. I can similarly share. I was on the site last year. I have not walked the site this year.
Yeah, I'm in favor of a sidewalk, so I'd rather see it. I don't think we need to debate that. My feeling is that this is a unique site, and I I do not want to just look at photos. I need to see the toponomical features, and I want to understand the existing conditions. So I'm a big fan of a site walk. If someone could make that motion, if the agency is so inclined.
I'll make the motion, we do a site walk.
Thank you. Yeah, do
I'll
I
second
second?
that. This is Brian Black. I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Great. Let's talk about the date. Let's try to get this in before the public hearing. So maybe in a couple weeks. What are you thinking, Mary Rose?
I want the agency to be cognizant that we have a holiday week coming up, and we do have a meeting that week. We have a meeting on the 2nd of July. I'm not sure who's in town, who's not in town. Just want to throw that out there so when folks are looking at their schedule, they don't forget other commitments they may have.
I mean, I'm in favor if we're having a meeting on the 2nd to do it on the 2nd.
Same here. That's what we typically do. I think that's thanks for calling that out. I think it's a good idea. What time do we want to aim for? I want to aim for 5:30. You want to go
Whatever
over?
time you want. It's okay with me.
This is a small area, right? It's not going to take a long time. It's a small site.
It's through you, Mr. Chairman. It's a fairly small site. It's the large open area can accommodate. If Mr. Weiwei can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a large open area that can be accessed from Buick Avenue. There's plenty of parking here for the agency on site. Agency members can park there. There are some public spaces here. Our main interest is along Stubby Plain Brook here and at the intersection with Cherry Street on Buick Avenue. So I would think 5:30 would be sufficient time for a meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. We do have a motion and we have a second. Clarified the motion, so
I'll clarify the motion to make it on July 2nd at 5:30.
thank you so much. That'll alleviate having to do an amendment. Great.
Second.
Great. I think Mr. Black already seconded it. So
Okay.
Lisa, roll call vote.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Nick Ritchie,
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Ray Gradwell,
Aye.
Brenda Magnan.
Aye, motion carries. Mr. Crusaden, presumably, Mr. Weiwei, you guys can somehow make yourselves available for that session. We didn't ask, but
Bob's
Yeah,
Bob's the
second
important
is-
one.
Yeah, the second is fine.
okay, great. Appreciate it.
The agency may also wish to have the soil scientist, or not the soil scientist available for that site.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them to confirm that they'll be available for the 16th, as well as I guess Scott Stevens for the site walk on the 2nd.
Thank you very much. And my suggestion would be to the agency, please study the materials as they come in and formulate your questions. If you do have questions before the 16th, please get them to Mary Rose so that she can facilitate the investigation by the applicant. And we'll have all of the bases covered going into that meeting. So let's see, anything else we need to cover on this matter? If not, let's move on to the next one. I believe we should move on. We've taken a decision, so let's see. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes that were distributed by our famous Lisa?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Oh, okay.
Great. We have a motion and two seconds.
I picked Julie.
There you go.
Julie.
Great. Spread the love. All right, great. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Sorry, Lisa, roll call vote.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Nick Ritchie,
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Ray Gradwell,
Aye.
Brenda Magnan.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks very much. Mary Rose, anything worth mentioning on the staff report that we don't already know or can't read?
No, actually, nothing new. No new training. Still working on the community rating system and FEMA projects. That's pretty much it.
Great. Chair's report. Thanks for your attendance this evening. Long meeting. Appreciate your time and your attention and making it a priority. Our next meeting will be July 2nd via Zoom here, preceded by the site walk, which we agreed to at 5:30. Please, of course, let the office know if you're unable to attend. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Who did?
Mr. Ritchie. We're going to get it to
Okay.
him.
Okay.
Great. Any, yeah, all day. Roll call vote, please.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Nick Ritchie,
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Ray Gradwell,
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
Aye. Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate your time. Meeting.
everybody.
Have a great night.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.
Aye.
Have a good night.